As we head into the final stint of the post-summer triple-header in Monza, Red Bull and Max Verstappen are the pairing to beat, as has been the case almost all season. However, while the Dutchman appeared unbeatable in recent Grand Prix, winning 5 in a row, including a push from the back of the grid to victory in Belgium, Sergio Perez has not had the same luxury. And while the media has been quick to point out that the Mexican has been unable to match Verstappen's pace, one factor that is frequently overlooked is the fundamental difference in their cars. Indeed, this weekend in Monza has been a shining example of this, as Red Bull has yet to update Perez's car to the spec that their number one driver enjoys, causing outrage among the Perez camp and his fans. So let's talk about the disparity, why Red Bull chose this path, and why the gap between Perez and Verstappen this season may have a more disturbing explanation than a difference in skill. Since the Belgian Grand Prix last month, the two drivers from the Milton Keynes-based team have been on vastly different floors. Verstappen has continued to use the floor that worked so well for him on the early stages of the season, while Perez has been switched to the newer version that was trialed by both drivers in Austria and France but did not appear to deliver the expected step forward. Perez revealed at Zandvoort last weekend that he will be sticking with the floor for a few more races, despite the fact that it does not appear to be the best version, and he has been struggling to get along with his teammate for a while. Red Bull team boss Christian Horner revealed that the floor decision was forced due to financial constraints, with the squad most likely unwilling to build another old spec floor at this stage of the season due to cost cap restrictions. Most of the major F1 teams are struggling to keep costs under control, forcing them to be cautious about introducing new parts if they will not provide good value for money. Horner has also dismissed suggestions that the floor is the reason Perez has lagged so far behind Verstappen in recent races. It's very, very negligible. I think we predicted it to be circa less than 1/10 of a second. And of course, we're at that time of the year when budget cap kicks in. We have to look at the amount of spares we are carrying to enable both drivers to have a new floor in future races. That's the kind of compromises we're having to make. But in terms of performance, it's absolutely negligible that he misses out on the floor. He gains another element, so it tends to get itself evened out, whether that's a slight bit of weight and so on, to compensate. Perez had a good start to the season, stacking up well compared to teammate Max Verstappen and winning the Monaco Grand Prix. He also started from pole position in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix before an untimely safety car was deployed just after he made his first pit stop, dropping him to 4th. However, since mid-June in Canada, he has been less comfortable with the car as Red Bull has worked to improve the front end. It had a more understeery balance at first, especially in slower corners, as cars have tended to do under the new 2022 technical regulations and tires. While Verstappen prefers a more pointy driving style with a more aggressive turn-in, this is also a development path that unlocks more performance. Favoring it is thus not a conscious move away from what Perez desires, but rather a means of extracting more speed. A more pointed car will generally be faster through and out of a corner than a more understeered limited one because the driver can more proactively induce the required rotation. One of Verstappen's many strengths is his ability to make the most of a car with such characteristics, which many drivers struggle with. However, it makes life more difficult for Perez, who stated that he is much less comfortable with the car now than he was earlier in the season. I think in the beginning I was more comfortable. I could feel like every time I came to a weekend in FP1, I was already easily happy with the balance and things were coming natural. As the season progressed, it feels like it has become harder and harder. Every weekend, I have to really go deep into the analysis, and yeah, I'm not as comfortable as I was with the car before. Red Bull's chief engineer Paul Monaghan later responded to that statement, explaining the disparity between the two drivers while also admitting that they must ensure both can thrive and score the necessary points for the championship. We haven't made a deliberate step to make the car less to his liking. It's not easy to make them go faster. Within a fairly constricted set of technical regulations and freedoms, if you find a way to put a bit of pace on, you will often take it if it's within your financial limitations to apply it. So then you go through a process of your research tools, realization at full size, and then evaluation at full size. And if it looks like we've put some pace on the car, typically we will keep it on the basis that your tools say your car will be faster. Now, it may be that in deploying the tools, it's been easier for Max to adopt to them. Maybe his setup is suited a bit more than Chico's. But it's not as if the car is fixed in terms of its parameters so that Chico can't then revise the setup to say it is to his liking again. And it would be foolish of us not to then try to give Chico a method to get more out of it. We are in the race for both titles and we need both cars ideally ahead of the Ferraris and the Mercedes, so we will do everything we can to put the two of them there. Nonetheless, Red Bull's efforts to make the car more to Perez's liking have been largely futile, and withholding faster parts from their driver doesn't help. The pace difference between the two in Monza reflects this perfectly. On home soil, Ferrari topped both Friday practice sessions, with Verstappen finishing FP2 within 0.15 seconds of the overall pace, with Perez having a more difficult day behind the wheel. Horner stated that Verstappen is now satisfied with the balance of the RB18, but Perez still has work to do. Both drivers incur power unit-related grid penalties in the race, with Verstappen dropping 5 places after switching to the new ICE and Perez dropping 10. Of course, the pace difference could be entirely due to skill differences between the two drivers, but Perez's early season results cast doubt on that assessment. Following his victory at the Monaco Grand Prix, Perez was third in the drivers' standings, trailing teammate Max Verstappen by only 15 points. And while he now finds himself 109 points adrift, some in the paddock, including F1 presenter and ex-driver Martin Brundle, do not believe the difference is entirely due to the car. Brundle acknowledged the difficulty of driving alongside such a dominant teammate as Max Verstappen, but also stated that Red Bull has made efforts to assist Perez however they can. I'm sure if he knew, they'd sort it out very quickly. But it just doesn't seem to play to his strength behind the wheel, and then you lose a bit of confidence and trust on the braking point. And with these latest Formula 1 cars and the speed you take through these corners, if it starts sliding around too much, particularly at the rear end, and you don't hustle it, then you lose a bit of tire temperature and a bit of brake temperature. Then you get to a point where the car slides and you tighten up because, oh no, the car is sliding, rather than just, whatever, I can handle whatever you throw at me. It's a snowball effect of tiny little things, and that's why it's hard to identify what has gone wrong and how to put it right. Of course, the ball is now in Perez's court, and even if Red Bull treats him unfairly with the parts allocation, the only thing he can do is keep his head down and push for better results. Even in Monza, after a truly abysmal FP1, there were glimpses of Perez improving his setup by the time the second session arrived. While Ferrari dominated both practice sessions, Perez believes he can compete with the frontrunners in qualifying and race if the gains he made carry over. We have been playing around with the setup, exploring different directions, so I think all in all, we have pretty good information going forward. We have used different downforce levels as well, so we have plenty of data for us to review tonight, which is quite promising. We managed to complete a very solid program today, and we are fairly comparable to Max's car. There are just a couple of differences. I think the main thing will be the race pace, and how the tires last around this track also will be key for the race. What are your thoughts? Was it unfair for Red Bull to force Perez to drive with a slower floor, or do you think it was necessary due to the cost cap? What are your Monza predictions? Will Perez live up to his own expectations? Let us know in the comments section down below. And if you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing. It helps us out a lot.